So welcome back. I'm your host, Justin King. And, last video we talked about 26% of the 1% making it 5 years in the NFL and what exactly is a pro football career. That's the goal for everyone to make it to the NFL that kind of plays at a high level. And that's something that, we all strive for. Not all of us make it, but, some do. But the one thing that 100% of people have to deal with when they get into football is transitioning out. Whether it's, having aspirations of going off and being a coach, going off and starting your own business, is that, there's an actual step and procedure of like getting out of the game, right? And understanding what that is. We all say that it's going to happen eventually, but just understand that the clarity of out of the game doesn't mean like out of football, but just out of the sphere of being a player. Right. So today we're going to talk about the 3 critical factors dealing with the transition coming off of the field. You guys give a like and subscribe to this video and the channel in general. But the first thing when transitioning out of the game is the awareness of where you are. Like the biggest thing going in football is that you see when guys are transitioning out is kind of the awareness of like when their last days are coming. You see guys stretch it out through the end of their career, where it's like, waiting for that phone call, continuing to go work out, doing all those different things. And that's kind of like a rigor mortis time in an athlete's career where they lack that acceleration, getting to the next level, and not really accepting that the career is over. That's one of the biggest mistakes that I've seen with guys transitioning out of the game. And honestly, that was something that I was prepared for going into it, right? Like knowing what I wanted to do after football, not knowing how to exactly do it. We'll talk about that later. But working out and just hoping for that next call and understanding what that is when you're going through the NFL or trying to get into a different league and being completely ready, working at a job during the day or whatever your situation is to be ready to be prepared to play for football. It's a split on where you need to go or where your focus is. And a lot of times it hinders guys and handicaps them moving forward to the next stage of their career, right? Like next stage of just getting out of the mindset of being a player and chasing that dream and finding that closure. So that's one of the main things that you kind of miss out on, is continue to get that gap experience and gap knowledge that maybe that you missed while you were playing. Because a lot of times, I'll be honest with you, you'll know a couple years before the game tells you that it's time for you to get off the field, that is going to be time. Whether you're looking around and you're not getting playing time, sometimes that's in high school, sometimes it's in the pros, sometimes it's in college for guys. I know for me, I started realizing it when I kept getting injured in the NFL. It was in my 5th year, and I knew that I only had a couple more times of getting injured. Got hurt, new coaching staff, didn't get a new contract, had to go to a new team, a little injured. I understood that I was on my last leg in terms of teams going in the way that the NFL works, the way the front office kind of operates, and just from the time that I was in the NFL, the injuries that I had. So when I did get hurt, like I knew what I was going to do, but there was still an aspect of I was just like, okay, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to work in sports some way, but I wasn't focusing on how to do it, right? So when it ended, I got the call. I was expecting like, oh, we're going to release you, da, da, da. I got 3 months to try to work out and see if anything happens. And if nothing happens by November, I'm transitioning full throttle into the next thing. And that was like, putting those parameters on the ending of my career. They helped, but it didn't make, the other steps of the process any easier to deal with. Because like once you transition out and you make that decision that you're going to step away from the game, it's a mourning process, right? You've been playing the sport, you've been working out, you go eat, you go do your thing, and you go to football, and the cycle of the positive feedback is there. So when you finally close that door, there's a mourning process. So number 2 would be finding support and allies when you're going through that transition out. Your transition is a lot different from other of your counterparts or your other peers, maybe haven't played sports, or your family members maybe have gone through in that transition, whether you're 22, 23, 24, myself 26, some people was 30, whatever the case may be. But a lot of people understand that football is a major part of your life. And to be honest with you, to them, it looks like you're playing with house money. So for you to walk away from the game, they know it's going to end. And so sometimes the advice and the feedback that they give you in that standpoint, I'm gonna say can be insensitive, and sometimes you just feel alone because it's not the same. Like you feel like they don't understand because your life has been so focused around this game of football and routines and different things of that nature. Going through the transition, hopefully you have a group of allies and people that you can lean on a little bit about what they went through when they were going through the transition. Some guys, are going through the transition while you're going through it. And hopefully there are people that had the same aspirations that you do after sports, right? Like I had a nice network of friends and family. Like my best friend, Lydell Sargent, he was at the time an agent and he was transitioning out and going into athletic administration and where he's working now. And so like, I'm asking him about all right, how was this? How was that? learning the different hard parts. My roommate, Derek Williams, was getting into sales and he was going through the first aspects of that. So I'm asking how was, getting your first opportunity? What did you have to do? You have any advice on the route to go? He was getting into sales is a good, good to get that training aspect to it and you can be able to move, It's a good skill. I wanted to get into football. I had an older cousin, Chuck Fisher. He's now an agent, but at the time he was a scout. And I was trying to get into the league and scouting. So he would give me, his some scouting tips and reports and helping me understand how to look at the game from a scouting view. So all these things helped shape my view and kind of limit, falling off the deep end or, the dark times being too dark and just kind of staying focused on that next thing. And I'll be honest with you, it wasn't that it was all clear. It was just these different situations that I had in place or different, pillars that I had in place that I can kind of lean on when I was doing the other things, right? Because obviously you have a spouse or a girlfriend and things of that nature, it weighs there as well because your whole structure is changing, right? The support is different. You're looking at different things. You're attacking new problems. You're looking for a new career. You're trying to learn, a lot of different stuff at a time where you're a little vulnerable. So that was a big asset going through the transition is having a group of friends. I wanted to also add, one of my old teammates I was living with around the time was Dave Rabor. And, this gets into the third part, having a routine. Because with my friend, we were starting to play golf, starting to golf together and going out and that was a routine and something, a competitive skill to learn and get out there and, that competitive nature and trying to learn to do something new, working on a new skill and help me get in a routine. And at the time I got the internship with the Browns and working as a, college analytical scout. So I was pretty much watching film for 10 hours a day, going out and golfing and doing that back and forth and trying to have a routine that was in place. These were the pillars that I knew helped me as an athlete. So I was trying to put these things back into place. And the biggest mistake I think I made in the routine aspect is once you close the door on playing the sport or you're working out to get a phone call, what ends up happening is I know for me, I was man, I'm not working out just to work out. I'm going to try something else or do whatever. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to do some other things and learn some other skills that I didn't have a chance to. But when I didn't work out, I instantly lost 20 pounds in 3 months. So not only was I feeling, emotionally a way about transitioning out of game, trying to find a new identity and what I wanted to do, even though, I had my degree, I understood that I wanted to work in football, but there were still steps and tactical things that I had to do and get reacclimated, right? There was 6 years of my life that was dedicated to pursuing football a certain type of way. And where I was working out, one day going to practice, playing on the weekends, a certain level of rehab, all those different things where just, when it's over, there was a level of relief that came with it where I wanted to kind of relax and find myself and figure that out. But getting a routine in that phase is imperative because it keeps you in the mindset that you're used to being in, where you're you have some time management that's kind of built in and you're not drifting away into, different things and it just doesn't shock the system as much when you have that routine that's competitive, that you're working out and that you're doing something productive, whether it's learning something new to continue to build that new mountain. And these are all things that I say when you're transitioning out. We're not even talking about transitioning in to the next career because that will be the next video is talking about transitioning in because these are all the things that I feel you need to kind of separate yourself and kind of separate from football as you're leaving. So just to recap, everything that we talked about in this video, It's just making sure that first you have an awareness of where you're at in your career. Understand that, okay, my career looks like I got about 2-3 year window. I got another year if this does happen. I have an injury. Obviously it can be immediate at any time, but having an awareness of where it comes, you can kind of see when the ending of your football career is there, if you're being honest with yourself. The second thing is having support and allies that are going through the game or that are in a career that you want to transition to, that can understand like your intimate detachment from the game and being sure of closing that door, right? Because like when you do close it and you have that support system around you, start leaning on to your friends, understanding, kind of what they've gone through in the process, and take some of their, best practice and things that they learned, and kind of powwow and go through it together, because it can get lonely if you go through it by yourself. The third thing is have a routine. I would say find something competitive and make sure that you're continuing to learn whatever those gap experience skills that you need to transition into your next field. And hopefully when you do all three of those things at the same time, it makes the transition a little easier. It's always a rocky road because you've been doing something for your whole life in a certain type of way and you get to a high level. I believe these three things can really help make that transition a seamless thing and put some pillars in place to accelerate to the next phase or the next critical point of your career. So again, if you have any questions, be free to shoot me any texts or DMs to like Twitter or IG. All the stuff's in the links. And remember, life is good.